Part 2. Understanding Your Real Position. Chapter 3. Facing the Numbers Without Fear. Money can feel like a shadow, always there, often misunderstood, and just as often avoided. For many people over 40, confronting the realities of saving, spending, and planning for the decades ahead can stir up everything from anxiety to avoidance. Yet the numbers we fear most, our balances, our budgets, our projected retirement shortfalls, aren't enemies. They're signals. They're truth. In this chapter, we strip away the myths and emotional weight tied to financial figures and invite you to look at your money with clarity, curiosity, and courage. You'll learn how to decode your financial statements, assess your true net worth, and interpret your spending patterns, not as a judgment, but as insight. We'll turn fear into information and overwhelm into action. Because the most empowering step toward financial confidence after 40 isn't earning more or cutting every expense, it's understanding exactly where you stand and what your numbers are really telling you. By the end of this chapter, the financial landscape of your life won't feel like a maze. It will feel like a map. Understanding income, expenses, and net worth. Before you can grow wealth, you have to understand the money you already touch every day. Not in a complicated accountant-like way, but in a simple, honest way. This chapter is about turning confusion into clarity. Many people avoid looking closely at their money because they're afraid of what they'll find. But numbers are not judges. They are just messengers. They tell you where you are so you can decide where to go. Think of this chapter as switching on the light in a dark room. Nothing new appears. You just finally see what was already there. 1. Understanding your income. What really comes in. Income is not just your salary. It is every source of money that enters your life. This may include salary or wages, business profits, side hustles or freelance work, rental income, pensions or support from family, government benefits or stipends. Many people overestimate their income because they think only in gross terms, what they earn before deductions. But what matters for your real life is net income, what actually lands in your hands after taxes, loans, and mandatory contributions. If you are paid irregularly, your income may change month to month. In that case, your true income is your average, not your best month. Understanding income means answering one simple question: how much money do I reliably have to work with each month? Until you know that number, every financial plan is just a guess. Understanding expenses is where most financial stress lives, not because people spend too much, but because they don't know exactly where the money goes. There are two main types of expenses. Fixed expenses, these stay mostly the same: rent or mortgage, school fees, transport costs, insurance, loan repayments, utilities. And variable expenses, these change month to month: food, airtime and data, entertainment, clothing, personal care, small daily purchases. What surprises most people is not their big bills, it's the small, frequent spending that quietly drains their income. Money leaks in silence. A coffee here, a snack there, a just this once purchase. None of them feel dangerous alone. Together, they shape your financial reality. Understanding expenses is not about punishment, it is about awareness. Instead of asking, why am I bad with money, you begin to ask, where is my money actually going? That shift changes everything. The gap between income and expenses is your true power zone. Your financial future is built in the space between what you earn and what you spend. If your expenses equal your income, you survive. If your expenses exceed your income, you struggle. If your income exceeds your expenses, you can build wealth. That gap is called your margin. Even a small margin matters. A person who saves or invests a little consistently will eventually pass someone who earns more but spends everything. Wealth is not created by income alone. It is created by control. Understanding net worth tells you your real financial scorecard. Income tells you how much you make, expenses tell you how much you use, net worth tells you what you own versus what you owe. Net worth is calculated like this: what you own, assets, minus what you owe, liabilities, equals your net worth. Assets may include cash and savings, land or property, business value, investments, vehicles if they have resale value. Liabilities may include loans, credit card balances, mobile loans, mortgages, money owed to family or friends. Many people feel rich based on income, but are poor based on net worth. Others feel poor, but are quietly building value. Net worth is not about status, it is about direction. A low or negative net worth does not mean failure. It means you now have a starting point, and starting points are powerful. Why these three numbers change everything. When you understand your income, your expenses, and your net worth, three things happen. Fear shrinks because uncertainty disappears. Choices become visible. You can see what can change and what cannot. Progress becomes measurable. You are no longer guessing, you are tracking. This is why facing the numbers without fear is essential, not to shame yourself, but to give yourself authority over your future. You cannot improve what you refuse to look at, but you can improve what you finally understand. A gentle first exercise. Know your three numbers. You do not need spreadsheets or financial apps to begin. You only need honesty. Write down your total monthly income, your total monthly expenses, what you own, and what you owe. Do not judge the numbers, just record them. This is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning of control. Closing thought. Understanding income, expenses, and net worth is not about becoming a financial expert. It is about becoming the decision maker in your own life. At 40 and beyond, your greatest advantage is not time, it is clarity, and clarity creates confidence. In the next part of this chapter, we will explore how to track these numbers simply and realistically without stress, shame, or complicated systems. Why clarity is empowering, not scary. For many people, avoiding their finances feels safer than facing them, not because the situation is hopeless, but because uncertainty feels easier than truth. As long as the numbers are unknown, there is still room for hope, denial, and delay. But clarity is not your enemy. Clarity is your ally. Fear comes from imagination. Power comes from information. When you do not know your financial reality, your mind fills in the gaps with worst-case stories, like, I'm probably doing terribly, it's too late to fix this, I've failed at money. These stories feel real, but they are built on fog, not facts. Clarity replaces fog with facts. Clarity turns anxiety into specific problems. Anxiety is vague. Clarity is specific. When you say, I'm bad with money, you are fighting a shadow. When you say, my expenses are higher than my income by $8,000 a month, you are fighting a number, and numbers can be changed. Once your financial situation becomes specific, it becomes workable. You can cut, increase, adjust, or restructure. You move from emotional reactions to practical solutions. Clarity shifts you from, I feel stuck, to, I see what needs to change. That shift alone is empowering. Clarity restores your sense of control. Avoidance gives power to fear. Awareness gives power back to you. When you understand your income, expenses, and net worth, money stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you manage. You stop guessing, you stop panicking, you stop reacting, you start deciding. Control does not mean perfection, it means direction. Even when the numbers are uncomfortable, knowing them allows you to plan instead of pray, and planning is confidence in action. Clarity breaks the cycle of shame. Shame thrives in secrecy. Growth thrives in honesty. Many people carry silent guilt about past financial choices, bad investments, missed savings years, or loans that got out of hand. They avoid looking closely because they think the numbers will confirm their worst beliefs about themselves. But numbers don't measure character. They measure circumstances and decisions, most of which were made with limited knowledge and limited options. Clarity helps you separate who you are from what happened financially. Once you do that, shame loosens its grip, and when shame weakens, action becomes possible. You are not your bank balance. You are the person who can change it. Clarity shows you what is actually possible. Without clarity, goals are fantasies. With clarity, goals become strategies. When you know what comes in, what goes out, and what you owe, you can answer real questions. How much could I save if I adjusted one expense? How long would it take to clear one debt? What small change would make the biggest difference? Clarity does not limit your dreams, it gives them a foundation. Hope without numbers is fragile. Hope with numbers is a plan. The first look is the hardest and the most powerful. The first time you truly look at your financial reality may be uncomfortable. That's normal. You may feel regret, anger, or disappointment. But discomfort is temporary. Confusion is permanent unless you end it. Most people say the same thing after they finally sit down and calculate their real situation. I thought it would be worse, or at least now I know. Knowing is freedom. Not because the problem disappears, but because you are no longer blind to it. Clarity is a skill, not a personality trait. Some people think they are just not good with money, but clarity has nothing to do with talent. It is a habit. You do not need to be disciplined. You do not need to be rich. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be willing to look. Once a month, with honesty, without drama. That is how fear shrinks and confidence grows. Closing thought. Clarity does not judge you. It equips you. It does not shame you. It steadies you. At this stage of life, clarity is not a luxury. It is a form of self-respect. You are not too late to understand your money, and understanding it is the first act of building wealth after 40. Identifying financial leaks. Most people do not lose money through big, dramatic mistakes. They lose it through small, quiet habits that repeat every day. These are called financial leaks, places where money slips out without giving much value in return. A financial leak is not necessarily something bad or irresponsible. It is simply spending that does not match your priorities or improve your life in a meaningful way. Leaks are dangerous because they are easy to ignore and hard to feel. One small amount seems harmless, but repeated over weeks and months, it can quietly block your progress. Wealth rarely disappears in one big event. It disappears in small, unexamined choices. What financial leaks look like? Financial leaks often hide in everyday life. They may include subscriptions you no longer use, extra bank or mobile money fees, frequent takeaway meals or snacks, impulse online purchases, overpaying for services out of convenience, replacing items instead of repairing them, lending money that is never repaid, buying to relieve stress or boredom. None of these look serious on their own, but together they shape your financial reality. A leak is not about what you spend on, it's about how often and how mindlessly you spend. Why leaks are hard to notice. Financial leaks hide because they feel normal. You may think, it's just a small amount, or I deserve this, or I'll deal with it later. But money does not disappear in theory, it disappears in patterns. When spending becomes automatic, it becomes invisible, and what is invisible cannot be controlled. The difference between enjoyment and leakage. Not all small spending is a problem. A coffee that brings you joy is not a leak. A meal with loved ones is not a leak. A personal treat that fits your budget is not a leak. A leak is spending that you do not remember making, you wouldn't choose if you were fully aware, or that leaves you wondering where your money went. Leaks drain without improving your life. Intentional spending enriches it. How to find your leaks. To identify your financial leaks, you must observe without judging. For 1 month, write down every expense no matter how small. Group them into categories: food, transport, subscriptions, personal care, etc. Look for patterns instead of blaming yourself. Ask simple questions. Which expenses surprised me? What repeats often but adds little value? Which ones feel automatic rather than chosen? Leaks usually show up as daily habits, emotional purchases, or convenient spending. You do not need to cut everything, you only need to see clearly. The power of fixing one leak. You do not need to fix every leak at once. One small correction can change your entire financial direction. Stopping one unnecessary subscription, cooking 2 more meals at home per week, reducing one impulse buy habit. These changes feel small, but they create space, and space is where wealth grows, debts shrink, and confidence builds. Progress does not come from punishment, it comes from alignment. Emotional leaks. Spending without awareness. Some financial leaks are emotional: stress spending, boredom buying, rewarding yourself with money you don't have, using shopping to avoid difficult feelings. These habits don't mean you're weak, they mean you're human, but emotional leaks cost more than money. They delay healing and financial peace. When you recognize emotional patterns, you gain power over them. Instead of asking, "What did I buy?" you begin asking, "Why did I buy it?" That question changes everything. Closing thought. Identifying financial leaks is not about becoming strict or joyless. It's about making sure your money is working for you, not quietly against you. Every leak you find is hidden potential. Every small fix is a step towards freedom. You do not need more money to start building wealth. You need fewer leaks, and awareness is the first repair tool. Creating a clear financial snapshot. Once you understand your income, expenses, and financial leaks, the next step is to bring everything into one simple picture. This is your financial snapshot, a clear, honest view of where you stand right now. It's not a life sentence. It's not a prediction of failure or success. It's simply a picture of today, and you can't change what you refuse to photograph. What a financial snapshot really is. Your snapshot answers 3 basic questions: how much money comes in, how much money goes out, what do I own versus what do I owe. That's it. You are not forecasting 10 years ahead. You are not solving everything today. You are simply defining reality clearly. This one-page understanding is more powerful than vague hopes and emotional guesses. Clarity beats complexity. Step 1. List your income honestly. Write down every source of money you receive in an average month. Include salary, business income, support from family, side hustles, pensions, or benefits. Use real numbers, not best-case numbers. If your income changes monthly, use an average from the last 3 to 6 months. Your snapshot must reflect what is reliable, not what is possible. Step 2. Capture your real expenses. Now, list everything you spend in a typical month. Start with fixed expenses: housing, utilities, transport, school fees, loans. Then add variable expenses: food, personal care, entertainment, airtime, small daily purchases. Don't guess. Look at receipts, mobile money records, or bank statements if possible. Small numbers matter. A clear snapshot includes what you remember and what you usually forget. Step 3. Identify your leaks on your snapshot. Now, look at your expense list and mark repeated small purchases, unnecessary subscriptions, and emotional or convenience spending. You are not deleting them yet, you are labeling them. This helps you see where money quietly escapes. Your snapshot is not only about totals, it's about patterns. Step 4. Calculate your net worth. Next, list what you own: assets, cash, land, business value, investments, and what you owe: liabilities, loans, credit cards, mortgages, debts to people. Subtract what you owe from what you own. The number you get is not your identity, it's your starting line. A low or negative number is not a verdict, it's a direction marker. Step 5. Bring it all together. When you combine income, expenses, and net worth, you create a complete financial snapshot. It tells you whether you are living within your means, whether you are slowly sinking or slowly rising, and where change will matter most. Instead of saying, "I don't have enough money," you can now say, "My expenses exceed my income by this amount." Instead of saying, I'm in debt, you can now say, my net worth is negative because of these 3 obligations. That's not discouraging, that's powerful. Why a snapshot is better than a budget. A budget is a plan, a snapshot is the truth. If your snapshot is unclear, your budget will be unrealistic. You must know where you are before deciding where to go. The snapshot removes emotion from money. It replaces fear with facts. Updating your snapshot. Your financial snapshot should be updated every 3 months or after major life changes. This keeps you connected to reality instead of assumptions. It also allows you to measure progress instead of just hoping for it. Closing thought. Creating a clear financial snapshot is an act of courage. It says, I am ready to see my life as it is, not as I wish it were. This is not about judgment, it's about direction. When you know your position, you stop wandering, you start navigating. And navigation is how wealth is built, step by step, decision by decision, after 40. From numbers to meaning. In this chapter, you faced the numbers without fear. You learned to understand your income, your expenses, your net worth, and the hidden financial leaks that quietly shape your reality. You created a clear financial snapshot, not to judge yourself, but to orient yourself. That snapshot is not your destiny, it's your starting point. Clarity has shown you where your money comes from, where it goes, and what remains. It has turned vague anxiety into visible patterns and replaced emotional guessing with practical understanding. This is not just financial work, it's self-respect in action. But numbers alone are not the goal. Money is only useful when it supports the life you want to live. Without meaning, financial progress becomes another endless race. More income, more saving, more pressure, more comparison. Now that you can see your financial reality clearly, the deeper question emerges. How much is enough? Not enough compared to others, not enough according to social media, not enough based on fear. Enough for you, enough for your needs, enough for your peace of mind, enough for the life you actually want, not the one you feel pressured to chase. This is where financial clarity turns into financial purpose. In the next chapter, we move beyond survival and into intention. You will explore what enough truly means in your own life, emotionally, practically, and financially. You will learn how to separate real needs from inherited expectations, define success without comparison, build financial goals that support peace instead of pressure. Because wealth is not just about accumulation, it is about alignment. And once you know what enough looks like for you, your money finally has a job that makes sense, not to impress, not to compete, but to sustain the life you are choosing to build after 40.